do a serious one.
Yeah.
So joining you live from the World Championship 2023 in Barcelona, the Living Legend podcast.
You want to just start? We can. I guess I'm the host.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be Bill, but
yeah.
you know, he's climbing rocks and stuff.
He's climbing rocks and stuff.
Yes, yeah, he's got too busy for us. Too busy climbing rocks. Yep.
Bill loves his rocks.
Bill loves his rocks. Anyway, how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to the Living Legends podcast, your weekly Flesh and Blood podcast. Where we talk about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood trading card game. My name is Cal, also known as Red Zone Rogue, and I am joined this week only by my good friend Az. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing really, really well. It's going to be a good episode today because we've got a lot of things to speak about off the back of Pro Tour Amsterdam. With out of left field for Hero that won as well. So that's interesting to go into, but also a load of roadmap stuff as to what is coming up next with Flesh and Blood, some products, speculations as to what Brian said during the keynote, and Rosetta stuff as well. So it's going to be a good little episode today, I think.
Yeah, and before we get started, a couple quick notes. First of all, we want to mention that if you like the Living Legends podcast, definitely go follow us on our brand new YouTube channel, The Living Legends, a Flesh and Blood TCG podcast, or youtube.com/The Living Legends podcast. That is where all of the new episodes are going to be on YouTube in about a week or two. This one is still going to be on Red Zone Rogue, and the next one is still going to be on Red Zone Rogue, but the one after that is going to be exclusively on the new YouTube channel, so definitely go check that out. Help us speedrun to 1,000 subscribers over there. We know there's about like 700 of you who watch listen every single week on the audio only, and about 1,000 to 4,000 or 5,000 depending on how spicy the topic is here on YouTube. So definitely go check out that new channel. That's where all of the Living Legends specific stuff is going to be. Second note, Bill is not here today, as we may have alluded already. He is too preoccupied climbing walls. That's what he's doing. He's you know, yeah, he's just gripping those boulders with his Canadian fists. Yeah. So
spending too much money on banana-like shoes to climb those rocks. I mean, I delved into it a little bit, but for people that don't know, I haven't really spoken about it much recently because my exercise regime has gone down the drain over the last 4 weeks because I actually rolled my ankle during a football match.
Oh, damn.
Weeks ago. So it was the week before the UK Nats, and basically I put my foot on the ground and then my foot just went like that. So it rolls your ankle, it popped a little bit, so it's definitely a sprain. And those things do take at least a month or so before you can really start doing exercise again. So I've had to put bouldering on the back foot, so Bill's way ahead of me now. His skill level has far surpassed mine.
Yeah. So we'll ask Bill about all that stuff next week. But for the time being, that's kind of our housekeeping. Go check out the new YouTube channel, and then Bill will be back with us next week. As said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, so let's just get into our weeks. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so before we go into that, I just want to shout out a couple of people that are commenting on the new YouTube channel. So Goblin Reserve, first of all, says, any thought of re-uploading the older videos to this channel as well? Ooh. There is a playlist. There is a play because trying to upload all of the old videos to the new channel would take absolutely ages, Hank.
It's like 107 episodes, 106 or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. But there is a playlist on there which links to the old, well, not old yet. We're still migrating everything over, but there is a playlist on there of all the other episodes that we've done on Red Zone Rogue channel. But yeah, going forward, they'll be uploaded on both until we've migrated everything over. Another commenters as well. I just want to shout you out because you're the first commenters on the video. So Playtime TCG, Lieber Noodle, Jacob Neatling, Florgness, Donzai Banzai, and John Randall Dacklason 9803. So thanks for all your comments on the first episode over on the new channel.
Hell yeah.
And we'll continue to do that. I'll continue to shout out names of people that comment on these first opening episodes as we race towards our first 100 subscribers. 1,000, that'll be great if we can get there. And as you said, the numbers do justify it. It just means clicking that button essentially on the YouTube channel. So go and do that when you can. But nearly at 100 already within the first week, which is nice.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll continue to shout out you folks as well that comment on the videos. So just thought I'd shout them out quickly.
Join us. Be one of the first 1,000. You can only be one of the first 1,000 once, so go ahead and do it. And like I said, definitely check it out. Yeah, good idea. Yeah, we'll shout out and mention some comments exclusively from the new channel the next couple episodes. Awesome.
For sure.
All right. Well, my week in Flesh and Blood's pretty quick because I didn't really do much in Flesh and Blood, personally speaking. I've been really busy and involved with a lot of other trading card games. But I did end up watching the Pro Tour, and we'll talk about that when the time comes. But I guess I can mention this now since it's kind of more like a personal thing and less, it's very much about the Pro Tour. But watching the finals of the Pro Tour was pretty awesome. I have been kind of checked out on the competitive scene for quite a while, and I've watched a couple of the other competitive stuff, but for whatever reason, maybe it's because of the hero that won, I don't know. But I really felt, it felt really nice watching it, and it felt kind of like I was back there, you know, like in the casting booth, like in the event, and I even kind of like hype tweeted after Shoma ended up winning, and yeah, I haven't done anything like that since I was like physically there, so it was cool. It was great. Highly go recommend watching the top 8, if not, you know, if you don't have the time, at least the top 4. It's great. So yeah, that's basically what my week in Flesh and Blood has been. Mostly just like the Pro Tour. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, it was a lot of people's weeks in Fab was watching Pro Tour Amsterdam. And yeah, great job to everybody who was there and playing in the event and casting it and all this. It was great to watch. Production of course by Savage Feats was solid again, very good stuff. So yeah, good job to everybody there. And yeah, Shoma for winning the whole event on Uzuri. Very interesting pick. You know, I imagine if you go back to a few weeks ago and you know, watch lots of content creators tier lists on what heroes are going to be A tier, and that Uzuri will not be on there. So,
well,
Uzuri will not be on any tier list.
She would be on mine. Uzuri's been my for multiple reasons, I should say. I mean, I'm the one who spoiled Uzuri, but even if I didn't, she would still be my favorite hero. Uzuri's like literally my favorite hero and my favorite deck in the entire game. It's the deck that I have like 98% foiled. Currently, I've kind of like converted it over to new for a little while, but Uzuri's still there, and she's literally my favorite deck. And so when I saw 2 Uzuris at the event, and then I saw the conversion rate into day 2, both Uzuris made day 2, I was like, hell yeah, I tweeted this. I was like, 2 based Uzuris. And then I saw like Shoma was ended up winning, and I was just like, yo, I'm rooting for this guy. And then he just took it all away. So very excited for that. It was incredible.
Very interesting pick. Very interesting pick for the meta at large, because a lot of people were thinking new because of the interaction, but what a lot of people forgot was that all of those stealth cards, like including your spoiler as well as like Bonds of Agony and stuff, they're all stealth cards, so they still allow you to play and switch out things into Uzuri's ability, right? So it's just, there's so much forced interaction in that deck. It just, they weren't allowing Zens to play. Like, they weren't allowing Zens to keep full hands. They were picking key cards out of their hands so they can't play them. When Zen was blocking to maybe go off or try and get tempo back, they were shredding things, so the block was useless. You know, there's loads of really interesting things in that Azuri deck, which surprised a lot of people, clearly. So, yeah,
I mean, deck list looks really good. I'm a big fan of it. It looked pretty close.
Spreading plagues as well. Stuff that you've always used.
Yeah, like I said,
I've played against you always like, yeah, spreading plague. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a pet Kel card, but you know, in Shoma's list nonetheless. So really interesting thing, really interesting stuff.
Turns out I might have good taste in heroes and cards. The deck list looks great. It looks like something I would definitely run. I mean, I probably will run almost a variant of it. My current Uzuri list isn't updated with Mistveil, but like it's pretty darn close to what he's running. I'm still running some of the older stuff like Ravenous Rabble and stuff, but you swap those out for some of the new cards. You have like Just the Nick. You have both of the blue 1-drop Majestic stealth cards, like the Prognosis and whatever. Yeah. I mean, like, just generally speaking, Uzuri, she's my favorite deck, but I really like her for like multiple reasons. One of them, she's cool. I like the flavor. I like the assassin vibe. I like her gameplay. But two, I think she's just generally pretty good against almost everyone, except for with some exceptions. Those exceptions are classes that can go over the top of her interaction at instant speed. So specifically like Kano. It's really, really hard for Uzuri to deal with Kano because Kano can just do all of his stuff in response to you.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Bless you.
Pardon me. Remember to edit that sneeze out. If it's not out, then shame on me for not editing it out.
Nah, leave it. It's fine.
But maybe we'll leave it in. But yeah. So like I really like Uzuri, and I always feel like good playing against someone with Uzuri, except with Kano. Kano's really rough because they can just kind of ignore your interaction for a large part, and they just burn you out and blow you up.
But that's the thing, right? Every hero has bad matchups, and I think a lot of people identify that, you know, as long as you streamline your deck to focus on the meta, you know, clearly Shoma saw a weakness in the Zens and even the news that he faced. You know, Uzuri, I think, does have more interaction than Nu and doesn't have a density of non-blocks in their deck because all the assassin cards pretty much block for 3, don't they? Most of them. Yeah,
you don't run. Yeah, you run like no instance. Almost everything in the deck blocks for 3 with a couple exceptions like your codexes and that kind of stuff, but for the most part it's just pretty tanky, pretty resilient, great against almost every like physical deck in the entire game. Like, it's just really solid. Most decks really want to have like a couple card hands, and they also want to have like, you know, some sort of like follow-up. And so if you can do something like a shakedown or any card that lets you like rip stuff out of your opponent's hand, especially if you get to choose, you can really pick apart your opponent's turn and just make it so they can't do much, and you block really well, and it's just a great deck.
And there's a lot of information revealing as well, so you can see you can about if you know the decks that you want to prey upon, you can be like, oh, okay, I'll take this card away, and they can only do this next turn, which means, you know, I've got this much life or cards to block with or keep for what I want to do next turn. And people like Shoma. And I think Japanese players as well are going to see a lot. You know, they're very, very good, like across the board. They're very articulate with their cards, and you know, I think we're going to see a lot of decent Japanese players coming through, and the world should be scared because they're very good at card games. So yeah, it's interesting as well that obviously Japan was a big thing this year as well with part of the Mistveil world premiere. So yeah, the world should definitely be scared of Japan going forward. But yeah, great mastery of the deck. And another thing that was interesting as well, seeing the Uzuri deck was how much contracts mattered. There was a game where I think Shoma rebought his Black Tech Whisperers at least 2 times in that game.
The final, man.
Because that's it. Was it the finals? Yeah. Because he was banishing cards off of Leave No Witnesses, wasn't it? I think.
Yep.
Because that's a contract card. So, you know, the Black Techs as well coming in really handy in that game, which was good to see because those cards are very good. And again, punishing non-blocks. If you don't block me, I'm going to crap my Black Techs then and then just play another card after this.
It's one of those situations where it's like just really good either way. It's either you block me and you take cards out of your hand, which is what I want anyway, or you don't block me and I punch you even harder with more stuff. That could also just potentially rip cards out of your hand anyway. Stuff like Surgical Extraction, like the Prognosis. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that just forces interaction. You either block it and get cards out of your hand, or I just force the cards out of your hand and you also take damage. It's great. I mean, that's I've said it multiple times on the podcast. Just give me cards that let me take cards out of my opponent's hand. That's what I want. Yep. She's great.
Solid strategy this weekend, clearly. But yeah, so a lot of people were glued to the TVs for Pro Tour, which I was definitely one of them as well. While working, I might add, just headphones in, listening to the casters, following along that way. But apart from that, my week in Flesh and Blood was revealing the Aelia Armory deck, which I have now done, and I've actually got the product here as well, so you can see it there.
Ooh.
The Aelia Armory deck. So this is the one I'm going to be giving away. So people that are watching this now or in the future, you still have time. So I'm drawing it on the 2nd of August. So when this goes live, you will still have 2 days or 1 day to enter. So all you need to do is comment on the Aelia Armory deck list video, saying why you love the hero and when or if you're going to start playing Flesh and Blood soon, and then just like and subscribe to my channel, and then you've got a chance of winning it still. So you've still got time if you're watching or listening to this to do it. But you should also like and subscribe to this channel as well, Living Legends Podcast. That's what you should also do.
Yes.
But yeah, I've been doing that. So that was good. The cards that came in the Aelia deck as well are pretty cool. So you got the Aelia hero token, which is here. You've also got this little thing on the back which says arrows. So you got a nice little prompt on the back of this Aelia card, which says arrows can only be played from Arsenal. And then all the equipments come in rainbow foil. So all the equipments that you get from the Armory deck come in rainbow foil, as well as one Line It Up and one Stone Rain come in foil. And then you've got a nice little Aelia art card as well from Maxim Costin, who did the young version. So nice little extra bonuses for buying the Armory deck. So that was cool. And what else have I done? I'm just editing more League That Means Nothing games. So the round ones are gonna finish up this week. So all the televised round ones will be finished by the end of this week, and then the round twos will start airing next week. So that's good fun as well. There's been some absolute barn burners of some games in the round twos, some insane turns, including one from our co-host Bill in his second game. So yeah, that's going to be continuing, of course, as well. So a lot of editing on Go Again Gaming, but the busiest I've ever been this year. You know, I keep saying this, but at the start of the year, I was like, what do I do on my channel this year? But this year has been ridiculously busy with regards to the content that I've been putting out for gameplay stuff, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, that's it really for this week in Fab. Nice. I also made some silly Aurora edits as well, because that's definitely a hero I want to play with when she comes out in Rosetta, because you know that I used to love Viserai when I first started, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think you. Yeah.
Viserai was one of my early favorites as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. That's why we love the Arcane Rising. There's one of our favorite sets, right? Arcane Rising. That's why we got invited to do the Arcane Rising box thing in San Jose, because people knew.
I think Arcane Rising is like my second favorite set now, Outsiders being my first. But yeah, I always love Arcane Rising. It was also like the first time I really went like super big into any card game. I bought like many cases of first edition Arcane Rising. I bought so much. All of the first edition Command and Conquers that I own, I literally opened from packs when the set was brand new. So I still have those. I still have those, and then a set of foil ones that I opened. I opened a full set of foil unlimited ones. So yeah, Arcane Rising has been pretty good to me for the most part. Yeah. I have opened up first edition cases that did not have any legendaries, so those are always pretty crappy. Both by back in the day standards and by today's standards, pretty crappy both ways. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how I got onto the subject of Arcane Rising. I was speaking about something else.
Viserai? You mentioned Viserai.
That's right. Yeah, so Rune Blades. So I've always been a big fan of Rune Blades. Viserai mainly because it had that goth sort of warlocky purple dark energy about him, sort of interdimensional being that can tap into different realms. I've always liked that side of things, and my D&D character, the second campaign that we was going to do, I'm not sure whether we will still do that, hopefully, who knows? Maybe that's something we can revisit at some point. But there was a little bit of that energy in Azra's continuation of his story, was that he fell into Iriathiel, or however you pronounce it, and then came back with a weapon from that realm, because he turns into a rune blade to a certain degree. So yeah, so always love rune blade, and Aurora just looks like something I would want to play. She looks just absolutely stunning with regards to the artwork. Aria is just fantastic, and it gives me like Final Fantasy vibes. I did another picture edit today with Aurora standing in Besaid Island, which is like the first place you go to in Final Fantasy X, and she's holding the Khalid Bolg sword, which is the ultimate weapon that Tidus can get in that game, because that's what her sword looks like. Her sword looks like Khalid Bolg. So if you know what I'm talking about, leave a comment in the section below. But leave a comment on the section below on the Living Legends podcast video if you can. So, but yeah, Final Fantasy X fans, you will know exactly what I'm talking about here with the Khalid Bolg sword. And I was like, oh yeah, I would love to spoil this sword, but it's probably very unlikely because the first strike decks are coming out soon, and I imagine her sword will be in that deck. So we are going to see it soon, I reckon.
Yeah, I think the first strike decks, are they coming out at Gen Con, which I believe is like this weekend? I think they're going to be available to be played at Gen Con, so we'll likely see weapons for both, well, for all of the, or no, well, not both. It's just Aurora and
Terra and Aurora.
Yeah, Terra's the big guardian dude.
Big guardian bloke. Yeah,
I really like Aurora. Out of all the characters revealed so far, she's probably the one that I'm most likely to play. I'm a big fan of like silver-haired characters in general, and she looks great.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she gives me Lexi vibes, and Lexi is like my second favorite hero in the game. So, you know, news up there a little bit, but I do like Lexi quite a bit.
Oh yeah. Just the whole thematic new is it's definitely up your street with regards to that succubus demon sort of luring you into false sense of security type character, which is really cool to explore that. And that's what Brian and James said as well. They really went in on that succubus vibe, didn't they? And preying on your desires and preying on your own cards and all this. So that's a really cool flavour. But what I really like about Rosetta is the fact that we're exploring individual elements, because Aria was a mixed elements, wasn't it? Whereas this one is all lightning Runeblade, or all lightning wizard, or all earth wizard and all earth Runeblade. I think Aria sort of blown its load a little bit too quickly with regards to mixing the elements and giving you essence and access to two. I think it just blew its load too quickly. Whereas this one, we get to explore lightning in all of its glory as a hero, just lightning hero. She also, from the trailer was sick. Well, obviously, we're going to go into what was spoiled at Pro Tour Amsterdam soon, but it also just gave me like, the Flash type vibes. Pure speed all over the place. But yeah, I just can't wait to see what comes out for her. But again, just one of those characters that you can vibe with on an aesthetic level. It doesn't matter whether they're good or not. You still want to play them because they just look good. It's similar to how, like you said, doesn't matter whether Nu's good or not. I'm still going to just play it because she looks good and she has some cool cards, right? So,
yeah, I mean, like, it goes pretty far for me to that degree, because I would never play a character that I think doesn't look good. Like, I don't care if they're the best in the game. I'm not playing them if they look like ass. It's just not the way I work, and I wouldn't find enjoyment out of it. So, like,
no,
yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, Aurora looks great.
I can't. Oh. Yeah, I can't see. We can go into the main topic now, but I agree. I can't see myself playing someone like Oldhim or Terra or even like Auxilio, a giant robot. I'm just like, nah. I just don't. I don't want to play with that. Thanks. I'd rather just play with this character or whatever. So,
Auxilio in particular is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just because.
And we'll get to it.
Just because he's got no legs, man. He's got no face. He's got no legs. He's just like a bunch of floating metal pieces with like glowing stuff inside of him. That's what he is.
Yeah, well, the adult hero art for Auxilio now just basically confirms that it's just a ball of energy with like floating metal around it, forming a form. So,
the funny thing is the young art was the art that where he's like huge, and there was like the scale humans. You can't see it in the actual card art, but in the full art you can see it. The humans are like super tiny at the very bottom. Like he's like, I don't know, 100 times bigger than they are or something. And so like the adult art is literally just like the same thing. He's just kind of like not on the wall anymore. He's like chilling in some blue background with swirly magic and crap. So
yeah, and yeah, we'll obviously get to this as well. But it looks like the Auxilio character is smaller because he's like surrounded by like these edges, these ledges, perhaps that make him like feel like he's smaller.
I mean, maybe he's just in a huge area. Like maybe he's just like maybe everything is just like
there's nothing
massive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just no scale in that picture, is there? I guess so. We can't really tell about skin the full art.
While we're talking about his size, I also want to mention how funny I think him having less health than the other heroes is hilarious, given the fact that he's like 100 times bigger than a human, and he's got like less health than like Aurora, who's kind of like this fast, tiny girl. Like she has 4 more health than the giant, like the giant metal electric construct. I just think that's really funny.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So yeah, it is hilarious, and we spoke about it last time, didn't we? It's like the whole the squirrels can take down Emrakul problem that Magic has.
Yeah.
You've got enough of them. But if you look at the so there is a Auxilio hero art on FABTCG.com. So the Rosetta assets, the marketing assets, are now available. So what I was thinking was, if you look at this adult version of Auxilio, there's like a staircase in the background, which kind of makes it look smaller. But then I guess the big massive door behind them is quite large. So maybe I'm just chatting garbage, but yeah, probably still a huge robot. But I'm digressing anyway. Now we should probably speak about.
I do see the stairs. I mean, it could just be massive too. I don't know. Maybe they just messed up on the scale in the first one. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know how he could shrink. He's like made of metal. Like I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this guy, or this
this being
character. Like I don't know what's going on with this thing, man. Yeah.
Oh well, it's funny. I'm sure a lot of people will vibe with it. So it's fun to see our first sort of non-human character. I mean, we've seen things like Levia and tentacles and stuff, but this is like a construct character.
Yeah, it's
so
interesting. Well, I mean, we've technically had Data Doll, who's also technically like a construct. It's just she looks like a human, but she's really, she's really android. But still, like, I don't know. It's interesting. Before we dive into all of the cards, we got a lot of cards to talk about. I guess we should talk about what was shown at the Pro Tour and talk about that, and then we'll like cap it off with all of the cards. I think that makes sense because they kind of showed off the cards while they kind of did this little presentation, and I don't think it'll take too long to go through the presentation. There's basically like a couple key things to note. There's some new booster products, and we have like a timeline of like competitive events. So the least interesting for me personally is the timeline of competitive events. I guess that'll tell you where I am with Flesh and Blood.
I mean,
but like
the interesting thing about the competitive events, or for our sort of audience and our group, at least our circles, is that Brian mentioned in that keynote that we should be able to guess where the next Worlds is going to be. So I imagine it's going to be back in America for the Worlds next year, which is good because it means that I don't know whether it's going to be East Coast or West Coast, probably East this time, I imagine, because we were thinking, or maybe even Central. I don't know where the big places are in the US or what they would think about doing, but that's what we were speculating, weren't we? Before we knew it was in Osaka, we were thinking, maybe New York or maybe something like touristy.
I could see
people would still make a holiday out of.
Yeah, I can see New York. They really like doing Vegas, so I can see Vegas. If they want to get real spicy, they can do like a Seattle kind of deal, or they can even do like if they want to go in the middle, they can do like a Texas kind of thing. But
Texas.
I would prefer one of the coastal, like I'd prefer like New York. Personally, I'd prefer to New York or like L.A. or Vegas or something like that. Yeah. But you know, they have a lot of options. I think New York personally would be cool because I've never actually been to New York. I've been to New Jersey, but I've never been to New York, so that'd be kind of cool to go and experience. One thing to...
Do you reckon,
oh, go ahead.
Do you reckon you would be able to go to that then if it was in New York or US?
Yeah, unless I had some other like obligations, I should probably be able to go. I'm going to be probably going to the calling here in Portland. I don't think I'm going to play in the main event. I just don't think that's where I am. But I might just go and do some side events and kind of hang out for one of the days.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, just kind of like yeah. So looking at this, so this is the roadmap, or organized play roadmap for 2024-2025, starting in August. And I'm not going to read out every single event because there's an event every single month. Every single month there is something between skirmishes, pro quests, RTNs, the national seasons. What looks like every set's going to have a world premiere. So we have world premiere in Tampa, another world premiere, and another world premiere. Both of those at undisclosed locations. And then we have obviously the Worlds in Osaka, and then that's in November. And then we also have Pro Tour Europe in March of next year, and then Pro Tour APAC region in July of next year. So it's just kind of like crammed full of events. So if you want to go to a Flesh and Blood event, there's very likely going to be one near you, unless you live in South America. RIP South American. Shout out to all my homies from Brazil. Unless one of these world premieres is in like Brazil, but yeah.
I think I remember Brian saying on there that there's going to be a battle hardened in Brazil, but not a calling. Maybe I think that if you watch the keynote, there's he mentions all of there's loads of graphics as well for battle hardens and callings and stuff, and there's a lot of places that are getting their first calling or battle hardened. So Italy is getting their first calling, which is cool. So congratulations to Italy, and Team Emperor, I think, are from Italy. So they're getting their first calling. I think it's in is it Florence? Something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's correct or not. But yeah, Italy are getting their first calling. And there's going to be a Living Legend calling in Chicago as well. So the first
Nice.
Living Legend format calling is going to be in Chicago. So that'll be funny to see how that pans out at calling level.
Yeah, and in Amsterdam over the weekend, Kano actually ended up winning the Living Legend event, which was interesting.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that. That's cool.
Yeah, they have the bracket up. You can see the brackets. There was like a chain and some stuff. But I do believe Kano ended up winning it. I think the restrictions on Starvo kind of held him back a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you remember what the bracket was for that? So Kano, chain.
Here, let me. I can pull it up real quick. It's just on the Flesh and Blood website. In case anyone's listening and want to find it for themselves, it's just in the Pro Tour Amsterdam live blog. And just kind of scroll down. Right. You have the battle hardened. Let's see. For the battle. Oh, so here is the Living Legend. So, top 8.
Oh, yeah.
We have Prism, Zen, Chain, Icelander, Oldhim, Kano, Starvo, and then another Prism. So it looks like Prism was the highest represented, but pretty diverse. Pretty diverse.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's all different heroes apart from the double Prism. That's crazy. That's pretty good.
And then the finals was Nova Chan on Zen versus Alexander Vor on Kano, and Kano ended up winning. Starvo lost. In case you're like curious about the Starvo meta, Starvo lost in the first round of the top 8. So it was Starvo versus Prism, and they ended up losing. So yeah, pretty cool. And then just to note another, since we're talking about these brackets real quick. For the calling, Charles Dunn, a former U.S. national champion and also one of the developers of Diablo 4, ended up winning the calling on Zen. So,
wasn't Charles Charles was the guy who won with Earth Briar, right, in US Nats. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the last Flesh and Blood like event that I did casting for, was that US Nats in 2023.
Yeah.
2020, last year's US Nats, and he ended up winning with Briar. So pretty cool.
Nice.
And then second place in the calling was a new player, Fabio Albrecht. So new, very, very strong as well. So yeah, pretty cool. What's kind of depends on your take on the meta, but that top 8, unlike the Living Legends top 8, this top 8 was very dominated by Mistville heroes. 7 out of 8 of the heroes were from part of the Mistville, and the other one was Victor Goldmane. So all 8 of the heroes were from the latest 2 sets, and 7 of them were from part of the Mistville. So, you know, take that for what you will. Maybe you can just think of it as a new and growing meta, but I did find it a little interesting. Maybe it's the safe picks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like what happens as a result of Uzuri winning, as to what happens with regards to that, because I don't think a lot of people were expecting that to happen whatsoever. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all morphs around that. I think callings are always like Pro Tour is pure innovation, right? You saw Uzuri win. You know, it could be down to some lucky things here and there with regards to gem pairings and all this, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of shapes out, because if assassins start being good into the in the meta game at large, that then opens up things like Riptide to be good, because Riptide has a fantastic matchup into assassins because of all the traps and all the reactions that you can get access to. So that's going to be interesting. And then you could also argue that like Guardians and stuff could also be pretty good, but then you've still got illusionists and other things floating around and news that can still prey on Guardians. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward. So congrats to Shoma yet again for shaking things up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, Shoma Yamamura from Japan. It was his first time out of the country too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the presentation. So we went over the organized play events. So we now have the product roadmap for 2024-2025. Not a lot of sets. They continue to have like the one set every 4 to 5 months. So we have Rosetta in September. We have another set 15 in January, and then we have another set in May, set 16. And those are the only 3 sets kind of on the horizon, and they're every like 3 to 4 months, right? So they're continuing with that kind of cadence. Then we also have the Armory decks. We're going to have a crap load of Armory decks. So we have the Aelia Armory deck now in August.
Yeah.
And then we have, in October, we have another one. In November, it looks like we have another one. And then in April and July of next year, we have more. So got a lot of Armory decks. I know they said they might have new heroes in these Armory decks.
Yeah, so I was literally about to say. So Brian confirmed that there will be one new hero out of all these Armory deck products that are coming out in this calendar year, which is the graphic that you can see on the keynote speech from LSS on their YouTube channel. Brian did confirm that, you know, during this calendar year there will be a new hero introduced through Armory decks. I've got a feeling it might be this year. I've got a feeling it could be October, November because of Osaka. I reckon they might tie it to that. I have a feeling it's going to be an ice hero with Earth and Lightning be represented in Rosetta. We currently have no ice heroes in CC, with Lexi and Oldham both having Living Legend, and so it would make a lot of sense to me for them to put a new ice hero in October right after Rosetta. So that's kind of like what makes the most sense to me. I imagine a new ice hero. Don't know what class. Could be any class. Could be just an ice ranger with no mixed talent. So like how we have the just Earth rune blades and the just the lightning and whatever. I have a feeling that, you know, we could see a just ice ranger to kind of like follow it up to pair up with Rosetta. That makes sense to me.
But
Yeah, so it's
we'll see.
Interesting point as well, because it comes off the back of Rosetta, which is all Aria based. So maybe they filter that into it. But there's a load more armory decks. What? How much did you say? 5?
Yeah. So there's 4 more after Aelia. 2 of them come out in pretty quick succession. One in October, one in November, and then we wait about like 4-ish months or more. We have one coming out in April, and then one in July of next year. But we have.
I'll throw this over to the viewers as well. Like, leave a comment in the section below. What armory deck do you want to see? What hero do you want to see represented in an armory deck? Be interesting to know, like, what people want to see, because as we've seen from these decks, they've really allowed like new cards to be printed and new sort of play styles to be explored, especially with the Aelia deck of all the aim counter stuff and the full equipment suite which supports it. It'll be interesting to see what heroes they choose to put in these decks, like Arachne, for instance. That would be sick to see an assassin hero get more support, more specializations, more new cards that Arachne might benefit from, like contracts and other things. That could be cool to see. What other heroes haven't seen support in a while?
I mean,
Dash, maybe?
Rangers, man. I mean, like, we just got the Aelia deck, but we literally only have 2 Rangers in CC. Like, it's just Aelia and Riptide. Like, getting like a new Ranger, that's kind of another reason why I thought like a Ranger, like an Ice Ranger. Like, getting a new Ranger at all would be very good. Unless they put Ranger in the new set, which I also kind of have a feeling that the next set's going to be Savage Lands, and I think we're going to get a Ranger in that set, but maybe. Yeah,
so just going off of this, so I've made a few notes as well from the thing. I just don't want to forget any of these notes I made as well. Is that Arachne also, Brian made an Arachne joke. He was like, he hinted at the next couple of sets, and he was like, right, I'm trying to get this through development, and the next set I want to release is Oops, all Arachnes.
Well,
so Brian clearly wants an all assassin set.
Well,
always hinting at Arachne support.
They basically announced a product that could happen. We'll talk about that after you're done talking about this stuff, but there's essentially that could actually happen. So
so I just wanted to mention that as well, and everything else we can just get onto when it comes. So what was you going to say next?
Okay, so I just want to quickly just cover the First Strike decks. So those First Strike decks we mentioned before, they will be available starting at Gen Con at the beginning of the month, so like this weekend. Interesting to note, at least on the image that I have, they have no more First Strike decks, which is weird on this roadmap.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said why. I don't know. So that's confusing to me. If they're doing these as new play intro products, it would make sense to put these out for every new set. So I would assume we would get one in July or in January and May when the other sets come out, but that's just kind of weird. It just makes the First Strike decks even more puzzling to me. Just in general.
I don't know whether this is just an experiment or not, but the fact that it's got like a logo saying First Strike, and it doesn't make sense to have just one thing for a whole year. I don't know. Maybe they should. I don't know. We'll see. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, and that's also the only product listed under the new player category, which is also interesting. And then we have something brand new that they mentioned, the Mastery Pack. Now, the Mastery Pack is, I don't have a full image for the Mastery Pack at the ready here, but the Mastery Pack, the way I understand it is a pack that you could play with Crack, Shuffle, and Play, I believe, that is all one class. The Mastery Pack coming up, I thought it was hilarious when they announced it. I'll tell you why in a second, but it is Guardian. So we do have a Mastery Pack coming up in March of next year. It looks like between March and April. So in March of next year, Mastery Pack Guardian, an entire set that is only Guardian cards, and can be played limited via Crack, Shuffle, Play. Now, I don't know anything else really about this. I don't know if it's going to be all new heroes, returning heroes, a mix of cards, reprints. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's really funny that they picked Guardian because Guardian like just had a set with heavy hitters and has had like been present in almost as much set. Is it? So Guardian has been in the first Flesh and Blood set. I'm not going to count the supplemental sets because those have all the classes, so you can say that for all of them except for like Assassin and Illusionist. So Guardian is in 3 sets so far, I think, right? So the first set, Aria, heavy hitters, and then like all of the supplemental stuff. So like, and then Guardian also has like a crap load of heroes, like among the most in the entire game. Whereas some classes like Ranger has like 3 that have ever been made. Guardian has like an absurd amount. If you include like the young heroes, even if you don't include the young heroes, it still has an absurd amount. So like Guardian is just kind of funny to me. What that tells me is that they might not have Guardian in a set for a long time. That's what that signals to me, is like we need to put Guardian somewhere, and so here's its own thing. And because we're not putting it in any set for a while, that's what I get from that.
Yeah, I think so, because they've got 3 Guardians at the moment. They've got Betsy, Bravo Showstopper, Victor in CC. I'm thinking of anyway.
Oh yeah. So both. We've had multiple Guardians hit Living Legend in CC because it's been traditionally a very powerful class. So Starvo hit CC, Oldham hit Starvo and Oldham hit Living Legend. So
yes, we've had 5 in CC. Yeah,
we've had 5 in CC plus a bunch in like we've also had like Valda and the Bravant and am I missing someone? I might be missing someone, but we've had a lot of Guardian heroes. Yoji, we had Yoji. I still think I feel I'm missing someone, but like Guardians have like a crap load of heroes, and I just think about other heroes or other classes like I said, Ranger, who's got 3. Rangers had 3 heroes total. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's what my thoughts are regarding the what's it called, Mastery Pack? Yeah, Mastery Pack.
Yeah, I mean, a good argument was made as to why it exists. You know, Brian obviously scours the internet and looks for feedback where he can to make the best products, of course. And, you know, a lot of the questions that were asked in various threads and stuff online was, you know, I've just started the game. I love Aelia. You know, what is the best thing to buy for this hero? And you can point to things like Arcane Rising, because Red and the Ledger and stuff are in there, or Knock the Death Whistle, of course, or you could point them to Outsiders, where you got all the lace with cards and the buffs and premeditates, etc. But there needs to be one thing that you can say, right, just get the Mastery Pack Ranger, because all of the cards you need are in there if you pull them. It just gives you a nice big load of cards that you can build a deck with. So it makes sense as to why they're doing this, and it's cool because I do miss the supplementary sets like Crucible and Everfest, where you could just open a bunch of weird cards for all classes. So I do like this entry to the product line. It'd be interesting to see how it's received when it comes out. You know, it's Guardian, so I'm probably never going to really touch it. But it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah,
how many unique cards come in these sets as well, because there will be unique ones, and obviously reprints as well of the Spinal Crushes and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So
it's Flesh and Blood is becoming a very interesting case study for trading card games. So it started to, how do I want to put this? Flesh and Blood has begun to veer off the path that I personally enjoy in regards to like set releases and support in the set. So like, okay, what I mean by that is in a lot of trading card games that I play, everything gets all the support every single set. So what I mean is like in Magic the Gathering, when a new set comes out, every single color gets something. You get a bunch of stuff almost equally, right? So like the new Magic set right now, Bloomburrow, is just came out, and all of the things, I mean, it's all like little critters and animals and Redwall, and it's really cute and twee and stuff. But
it's still
every class
still
or every
Ruberg,
color
it?
gets
still
stuff.
White.
Yeah.
Yeah. White, black, blue, red, green, whatever.
Yeah, and then like in the game that I'm playing the most right now, like Shadowverse Evolve, every single set, every single class gets something for this game too. So every time a new set comes out, I literally build 6 brand new decks because all of the things get new stuff, and I have this cool moment where I build new decks for every single class. Flesh and Blood is not like that, like at all. In fact, in the last couple of sets, we've only had like a couple classes, right? Like we had 3. It's usually been like 2 or 3, like recently, or less. If you count Bright Lights and the only having Mechanologist. And so like out of the, how many classes are there in Flesh and Blood now? Like 10 plus?
Quite a few.
Like when you have a set that comes out that only appeals to like 30% of your audience, minus like a couple generic cards and maybe the class you got a expansion slot or something. It's a really, really interesting thing to think about. It's changed the way I buy the game, especially as I kind of like solidified where I am in Flesh and Blood. I'm like an assassin player, and so I have my all foil Uzuri deck, and I don't really need to buy much else. And like, I think it's just a really interesting thing, and like I don't know. It'll be interesting. I keep saying the word interesting. It'll be fascinating to see how this pans out for Legend Story Studios as a company. Like when you release a product like the Mastery Pack Guardian, that sounds awesome for all the Guardian players, right? But that's like what 10% or less of the total Flesh and Blood player base, and you're making a product only for them. And I guess like the counter argument is, hey, you can still play Crack Shuffle Play, you can still play Limited, but that still, people aren't going to buy cases of that to do Crack Shuffle Play. They might do it a couple times at the LGS, which is cool, and interact with it a little bit. But for the most part, a lot of people are going to ignore it. And so I think it's really interesting. It does open up avenues for like I mentioned, this is what I mentioned for the Arachne thing. They could literally just make a, Master Pack Assassin and put a bunch of Arachne stuff in it. And that could be the Arachne thing. They can do that for any class.
As a rebuttal to that, because Flesh and Blood is a hero-centric game, what happens if you buy Mastery Pack Guardian, and is it just Guardian class, or is it Bravo? Is it Oldhim?
No idea.
Victor? Because if you pull a Victor specialization and you're looking for Bravo cards, you just wasted time. So I guess the Mastery Pack stuff might just be Guardian class. Every Guardian can play it. Because
I have no idea. No idea.
That's what I mean. It's going to be interesting to say the word that you've said a few times. It is interesting because it's going to be interesting to see how they tackle that. Is it just going to be a class pack? It kind of hints at it, but then you're ignoring the heroes. So you're just focusing on the class. You're ignoring the heroes, which is also a detriment as well because you're not getting any new Bravo specializations or Victor specializations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's why I said, like, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this affects Legend Story Studios. Because I think, like, in the terms of just the game, sure, it's fine. Guardian players get some new Guardian stuff. That's cool. But, like, how profitable is this for Legend Story Studios? How does this make Legend Story Studios enough money to be able to continue doing other cool things and, all of the other stuff? I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing. And no other card game really on the market right now is doing this. Other games have done stuff like this in the past, like Legend of the Five Rings with the clans, right? So you'd have like some sets that only have like 2 clans. Like this is the Mantis and Crane set or whatever. And Flesh and Blood is more and more reminding me of that, less and less reminding me of something like we mentioned Magic the Gathering or like Shadowverse, where every single set has support for everything. It's very specific and very targeted. And to that degree, for me, as like I love card games. Card games are like my life. And I actually really, really enjoy buying new sets and building a bunch of new decks. But I can't do that for Flesh and Blood unless I want to play all of the classes. And it's just kind of like this weird, I don't know. It's this weird thing. So, yeah.
It all feeds back into the hero thing that we've said before. Is the fact that you identify with certain heroes means you're just not going to buy some products in this game, unless there is a sick-looking aesthetic set that you can get interested in, like Aurora, for instance. You know, I'm probably going to build out that hero because I like the look of it. But what they could do to keep people on board with the sets that they might not be interested in because of the class or the aesthetics, etc., is build a story into these sets like Rosetta, like Monarch, etc. But they're not doing it still. They're still not doing it. So, you know, that's another thing that can keep people invested is from each set, you know, you go into different sets for different reasons or whatever, you continue the story, but there still isn't any movement on that. So it's interesting.
I will say they did release story for Part the Mistvale. It was very, very late, but Part the Mistvale story has now been released. So maybe this means that they have, you know, caught up and maybe we'll get simultaneous story releases with Rosetta. We'll see. But
exactly, but we need to know where we're going with it. Whereas at the moment it's just okay, we're going back here or doing this or doing that. It'll be interesting to see if they can tie that into the sets going forward, like Magic used to do, to a certain degree. And then you've got all these other projects or other products in the back where you can just be like, oh, okay, yeah, what do I do if I want to, you know, bulk out my Guardian collection? Oh yeah, I'll buy a case of Mastery Pack for Guardian or whatever. Or there's a new Armory deck for a new hero. That looks cool. I'll buy that because I want to get into that hero at an entry level. Then you've got an Armory deck that you can play and upgrade. So it all could be symbiotic to sort of pull on all those strings. Because I think the main money that they're making is from the actual sets themselves. I don't know the business side of it. But where was I? I think I was going to try and go somewhere else, but I can't remember where it is now. Oh, yeah. So with regards to the sets and where we're going and stuff, Brian did say that we're going to be returning to an area of Wraith. So that's an interesting point as well. Interesting pie. I think you said pie then. That's an interesting pie. That's an interesting thing. So he said returning to an area of Wraith. So it'll be interesting to see where we go next, because returning means that we've been there already. Yeah,
I do know that James once said that Monarch is a trilogy, and the third Monarch set should be in 2025. So next year we should have the final of the Monarch trilogy. But I don't know if it's at the beginning of the year. For some reason, I feel like it's the first set. I feel like the first set might be the final of the Monarch trilogy. And then he said it had like big story ramifications and yada yada. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see when the time comes, but that's what I remember James saying at least like about a year or so ago, when the Dust Till Dawn was coming out and stuff. So yeah.
Maybe we're going to the Demonastery again, because that I think we visited it to a certain degree in Arcane Rising, because there was a big story of Viscerai and the fact that you went to that big mirror.
That'd be cool.
So that would be sick, because there's a lot of stuff in. If you look at the Demonastery lore, there's loads of weird creatures and weird entities and stuff in there that have names and all of this. I haven't read it for ages, but there's loads of stuff on the Demonastery. I mean, so it'd be interesting to see if we go back there.
Like, cool. Dust Till Dawn took place mostly in Solana, so it'd be cool to see the opposite. It would be cool to see a place like the final of the Monarch trilogy taking place at the Demonastery. Maybe the heroes, you know, form a last resistance to go take it to the Demonastery or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
The last time we heard is Levia got consumed and is now Blasmafet and is like trashing Solana. That's the last thing we heard in the lore. Right. So yeah. I don't know what's going on.
We will see.
So there's go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, there's another thing that was announced as a product per se.
Yep.
But yeah, take it away. What is it?
I was literally going to say the same thing. Yeah, I was going to say we have one more thing before we go over the cards. We have one more thing to talk about today, even though we've already spent like an hour on this, and I don't know anything about this product. So maybe you got some more information. I didn't watch the full keynote, but the product is the 5th anniversary booster product. It is a booster product. It looks really cool. It just says 5th anniversary. Do you have any more information on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So these 5th anniversary packs are only going to be available in Osaka this year, apparently.
Okay.
So they're only going to be available at Worlds this year. So I imagine there's going to be a load of people trying to get them. And Brian was using it as, oh yeah, make sure you're there. You don't want to miss out because this is only going to be at Osaka. So God knows what are in these packs. But
now it's my turn to beg you and Bill to buy stuff for me from Japan. Last time I got the playmats for you guys. This time I'm gonna be like, please get me at least one of these stupid packs. Like I want to open one, at least one.
Yeah, I'll get. Well, Bill's not going either. It's just me.
Oh, just you. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I thought Bill was going.
I'm sure Bill will want one as well, though, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll find out how to get them and then source them for you, like you did for me, with the Aelia mat.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that's basically what it is. They're only available in Osaka. So it's going to be interesting to see. I've used that phrase so many times today. It's going to be interesting to do this. It's going to be interesting. But it is. There's so much going on, that we don't know about yet. It's just a roadmap. So it is all interesting stuff. So take a shot every time you hear the word interesting, and you'll have a whale of a time. But yeah, so going to be cool to see what is in there and what value those packs might fetch. Whether there's probably not going to be unique cards in there, maybe just like special treatments of reprints or something, cold foil versions of stuff or whatever.
Alt art versions of staples would be peak. Like alt art, like E-Strike, Sink Below, Command and Conquer, Tunic, like just alternate art versions of all these would be like the best. It would be so cool. It wouldn't be like unique stuff. It would just be like cool,
cool aesthetics.
Exactly. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And with that, I think that is it for the keynote news. And with that comes a bunch of card spoilers. And we'll try. We've already an hour and 2 minutes into this. We'll try to go through it fairly quickly. But dude, there's a lot of cards. There's a lot of cards. So, do you have the Fabry page up as?
I do, yeah. I do have the Rosetta spoilers so far. Yep.
So I figure what we can do is we'll alternate. So we'll go between. I'll read one out and then you'll read one out, and we'll just alternate. We'll give like a quick opinion of the card as well. I think we should redo the new heroes that they showed because they are slightly different. And
that's right.
Yeah, let's just kind of kick it off. So I'll kick it off with Florian Rotwood Harbinger. He looks really cool. Goth Daddy.
Yeah.
And he's, same kind of stat lines, 4 intellect, 40 health, elemental runeblade hero, and he's basically the same as the young version, but a little different. And it's exactly what we had anticipated back when we talked about this originally. So his hero ability scaled up as for the adult version. So he says, if there are 8 or more Earth cards in your banner zone, Florian gets, if you would create 1 or more Aura tokens, instead create that many +1 of each of those tokens, and he has Essence of Earth. And you compare that with the young version, same effect, except you need 4 or more Earth cards for the young version, 8 or more for the adult version. I'm not going to go too much into Florian here, but I'll tell you whether or not my thoughts on this kind of scaling mechanic. And I think it's cool. I think that they're designing this mechanic to be more, what's the right word? I don't say more tuned, but to be balanced better for the different formats that you play them in, both for limited and for blitz for the young version. So I think it's cool. And I think that it is likely a very good and smart way to approach design. So thumbs up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're scaling it to the life as well, because it's basically just doubling the life, doubling the requirement of what needs to be in your thing. So they're basically saying Blitz is half the game that CC is because of the fact it's just from 4 to 8 and 20 to 40, etc. So we'll see what scaling they use for future heroes in that regard. It's probably going to be similar though, just going to be double the amount, or half the amount of whatever's being generated on the card. But yeah, so Florian's going to be pretty cool. I imagine there's going to be some parallels to Golgari in Magic, where you just want to fill your graveyard up with things, block with things to get them into your graveyard quicker. And there'll probably be some cards that say, put some top cards of your deck into your graveyard or whatever, and then do something, or other cards that sort of mirror that, because he's got a very Golgari-esque feeling, right?
Yeah, Golgari is like one of my favorite, Reanimator rock type style stuff is like one of my favorite archetypes in Magic. So I don't know, maybe I'll actually really like Florian. I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, moving on to one of the new cards. Were we speaking about all of them in this list, or are we just moving on to the ones that we haven't seen yet?
Well, let's just do the ones we haven't done yet. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Majestic. This is a new card, a new type of card as well that we're seeing in this new set, and that's the split cards, or the meld cards, I should say.
Yeah, I need to actually adjust the regions for this, because they pop up sideways, which is nice. Which is nice on February. So
it is, yeah, very good innovation there. But this one is called Thistle Bloom for one side and Life for the other side. It's a yellow pitch, 0 cost, block 3 card. So meld is a mechanic where you can either play one or both halves of the card. So this card costs 0 to play. So both halves will cost 0. But if the card costs 1 to play, it would cost 2. So 1 for each side. That's how the maths work on these particular cards. One of the sides, Thistle Bloom, is a Runeblade action. So it says create X rune chant tokens, where X is the total life you've gained this turn. So that also says to us that that Florian might also want to gain life as well, because this is a Runeblade action on this side. And that's the total life you've gained this turn. So if you gain 3 life, you're going to get 3 rune chants. It's not just for each instance of life gain, it's adding up all of the life you've gained this turn. And then, speaking of life, you called this as well. Life is an actual thing in this game, in this set, I should say. And this is just a 0 cost Earth instant, gain 1 life. So if you meld both of these things together, you're going to gain 1 life and create 1 rune chant token for nothing. That's what you're going to be able to do. But then if you've gained loads of life during that turn, then drop this for 0, you're going to gain loads of rune chant tokens, which seems pretty cool. But yeah, you can meld both of these together anyway for 0 cost. So I think that's how it works, isn't it? You can just meld it for nothing. That's the interesting thing, is why would you not want to meld this? Why would you just want to play one half of it when you can play 2?
I don't, for the 0 cost ones, at least this one, I don't think you would ever not want to do that, unless your opponent's playing like the Poison the Well card that makes you lose life instead of gaining life.
Yeah.
Other than that, like,
that's
I don't.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one dichotomy that, if you've got a 0 cost split card, why would you ever not play both halves? So yeah, that's an interesting point. So leave a comment section below as to why you think that might be.
Another interesting thing about this card is that I think it's the very first instant that has a block value on it. It blocks for 3, even though half of the card is an instant, like life.
Oh yeah,
is an instant.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It just occurred to me. It says you may play one or both sides of this card. One of them is an action. One side is an action. The other side is an instant. I wonder if you play life as an instant, you might not be able to do the other side. Like if you play life on your opponent's turn, I don't think you can do the action part. Like I don't think you can play the action part on your opponent's turn.
That makes sense then. Yeah, that would make sense. So if it's during your turn, you get to do both. But if it's during your opponent's turn, you can only really do the instant version. But then that will work with what the Wizards want to do on their opponent's turn anyway, and Aurora can play lightning cards to then play and create an embodiment of lightning. So I guess you can do things on both your turn and your opponent's turn, because a lot of them play at instant speed. So I guess that makes sense, yeah. So, yeah, that definitely makes sense now.
Yeah, interesting.
So, well done.
Yeah, okay, cool. I don't know. I think these are cool. I think these are very strong, actually. And I think these remind me of Magic the Gathering even more. So, because They're the split cards in Magic that do like Fire Ice. Fire Ice is where you pick either side, but there are other versions of these in Magic where you get to do both. So that's what this reminds me of. Yeah.
There's a split card called Flesh and Blood, isn't there?
There might be, yeah.
There is a card called Flesh and Blood split card, guaranteed.
That's so good. All right, well,
but yeah,
let's move on to the next one. I have another hero. Well, actually, I'll talk about the hero real quick. I'm not sure if we want to spend too much time on this, because I just want to mention Aurora real quick. Because one, we get to see her art, which is great, very pretty. But two, she does not scale. So I wanted to mention this just because we find that not all of the heroes scale with the adult version and the young version. So Aurora Shooting Star is the adult version, 4 intellect, 40 starting health. Once per turn instant for 2 resources, create an embodiment of lightning token. Activate this only if you played a lightning card this turn, and she has Essence of Lightning. And then the young version is literally the same thing, just 20 health. So like this one does not scale, whereas Florian does. So I just wanted to point that out. That it's interesting. Some of them scale, some of them don't scale. And also, like we talked about earlier, Aurora looks great. The actual
good thing about
go ahead.
That's been a good thing about this as well, is that the more cards you see, the more sort of lines you can think of, like, you know, the other cards that we're going to see in a moment, like the lightning ones that you can play on your opponent's turn, especially on turn 1. This makes you want to go second, because you can, with Aurora, you can ping them with your instant lightning cards. Then you can, once per turn instant on their turn, create an embodiment of lightning going into your turn. So there's a lot of that, a lot of the play on your opponent's turn to then make your turn better. So there's going to be a lot of intricacies in that regard, I think, with what you play on your opponent's turn and what you play on your own turn. Whereas Wizards in the past and other things that care about instants have more or less just been, I'm going to pop off on on your turn and kill you, or I'm going to pop off on my turn and kill you in response, or whatever. Whereas this seems a bit more balanced on each person's turn can, you know, do different things. So I like the way already that this is looking. It's not looking too overpowered. It's just looking like you can interact on each person's turn rather than just your own, but not over the top. So
yeah.
But yeah.
The next card, I'll go ahead and read the next card because Aurora really wasn't a new card. It was just reiterating that she doesn't scale.
Go for it. Yeah.
The next card is another one of the split cards. This one's called Burn Up and Shock. This one is a Rune Blade card. So it's a Rune Blade action and then a lightning instant. So you can only play this in a lightning Rune Blade deck. And this one also costs 0. Also has that meld effect. So you can play one or both halves of this card. And then it also blocks for 3. So another instant that blocks for 3. The Burn Up side says, the next time an attack you control hits a hero this turn, deal 4 arcane damage to them. So it's an additional 4 damage on top of an attack if it hits. And then that part has go again. And then Shock says deal 1 arcane damage to any target. And this one is a lightning instant. So you can play this card on your turn, deal 1 damage to any target. And then you have that next time an attack you control hits this hero this turn, deal 4 arcane damage to them. So yeah, pretty cool. This is like 5 damage for 0, which is really good. This is really good. I don't know. This card's sweet. It's a red pitch card, I should mention. This one's a red pitch, and the last one was a yellow, but still good.
Blocks with 3 as well. So I imagine this is a rare as well. This one, so I reckon it could come in yellow and blue as well, which would just scale with deal 4, 3, or 2 arcane damage on the action. If
this came in blue, it would be nuts. It would be deal an extra 2 damage, but it would still be 0 for 1 arcane damage, blue, which is like kind of crazy. I don't know if this will scale, but this card seems pretty cool. This seems really good. And at a rare, this seems really good and limited for sure. This seems like
one thing to mention as well is that it looks like, because of obviously there's only 2 elements in Rosetta, it looks like your Earth instant will always be life, and your lightning instant will always be shock. by the looks of it. If you look at these cards here, the Earth ones always have life as an instant, and the Lightning always has shock. So what that means is, if you look at the hero abilities, it means that Aurora is always going to be able to shock the opponent on their turn, then pay 2 to get an embodiment for her follow-up turn. What that also means is, as well as depending on what her sword does, embodiment of Lightning basically will crack when you play an attack action card. So what you can also do is maybe just do some Runeblade actions and then swing your sword. That will not pop the embodiment. So you can just build up embodiments and then swing your sword on your turn. And then when it comes back round again, you're going to be able to go even faster with the embodiment that you've done. So that's cool. So it's good to note that, you know, shocks and stuff can be done in your opponent's turn. And also Auxilio cares about discarding instants. So he can just discard shocks to then draw a card, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that, you know, all of these cards look like they're just going to have life on one side or shock on one side, depending on the element.
Yep. Before we move on, just mentioning one last thing for the burn up. Good to note that it is just on an attack, not an attack action card. So burn up will trigger off of a weapon attack too. So yeah, just the
exactly. So it makes that weapon swing insane. So if you just want to do a setup turn, you can set up potentially on your opponent's turn by shocking them first for 1 damage, paying into your embodiment creator, and then on your turn just swinging your weapon, playing something like burn up before it, and then your weapons is actually attacking for a lot more. And then obviously that weapon will also have some ability attached to it, I'm assuming. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But going on to the next hero, this is Verdance, or Verdance, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Thorn of the Rose. And we've seen the young version before, which cares about if there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banner shown. Verdance gets whenever you gain life during your turn. During your turn, you may deal 1 arcane damage to any opposing target. Verdance Thorn of the Rose is just, again, same as Florian. It's just up to if there are 8 or more Earth cards. So exactly the same formula there. And that's pretty cool, because once you've got your graveyard online, all of your life instants will then ping your opponent on your turn. So that's just an interesting dichotomy, because every time you're increasing your life, but you're decreasing their life. So if you can do that, you know, if you can get that scale tipping in your favor, once you've got that, that's going to be quite hard for them to try and keep up with. And it seems like even as a wizard or a Runeblade, Florian and Verdance feel like they're going to be sort of more mid-rangey decks rather than the typical wizard or typical Runeblades might be. So
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like with Earth feels like a much slower kind of thing. So yeah, Verdance is cool. She seems really annoying, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, and if you think about the Heartbeat of Candlehold now that we've seen the Verdance hero ability be spoiled, we kind of were on the right tracks. A lot of people called the same sort of thing. Life gain translates to damage. So Heartbeat of Candlehold, when your ability is turned on, basically just says for one resource you can gain 3 life and ping 3 damage and go again. And it's a blue block 3, which seems pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, what we got next?
Next card is... We already did the Heartbeat of Candlehold. We have another split card. So this one is Pulsing Aether and Life. This one actually costs 1. So this says, Meld, you may pay 1 or both halves of this card. Each costs 1. So like as mentioned before, you have to pay the cost for both sides. So this one makes life cost 1. So the life side is still the same thing. It's just gain 1 life. It's an instant. It also blocks 3 as well. But the Pulsing Aether says deal 4 arcane damage to any target. Yeah, I mean, seems pretty good. Like the rate is pretty on par with is it Galvanic Blast? The 2 cost 5 damage red arcane damage common from Arcane Rising. Maybe that's not the name of the card, but there's one that does 2 cost 5 damage. And this is basically 2 cost 5 damage if you have Verdance's ability on, right? Because her ability will trigger, then you'll do an extra point of arcane damage. So Yeah, it's pretty cool. This one's just a rare, so this seems like another like pretty good pickup for like limited. And you know, being able to just pay 2, even if you don't do the extra points of damage, you pay 2, deal 4 arcane damage and gain 1 life. Seems good. Still a 5-point life swing. It still blocks for 3, which is still kind of crazy. Yeah.
So it
seems good.
It's essentially in this format or limited or whatever, you know, you look at this card, you read it as a 2 for 6 because you do the 2 for 6 value basically because you're gaining a life but dealing 5. Yeah. You're still getting 6 value off of 2 resources, which is pretty good. And like we all know how good life gain is. You know, Arthur Trehay won a Pro Tour off of a Sigil of Solace. So it just you know, sigils and all that sort of thing could be really interesting to see what happens with those, because like the Florian card we saw earlier was based on how much life you've gained this turn, so that sigil actually equates to then 3 value on the other card. So yeah, so it's going to be cool to see what happens with this as it expands. Yeah, that's cool. Another thing as well is that these actions, these wizard actions, are not Kanos. You know,
right,
you're not playing these actions you're not playing them at instant speed. You're just saying, I'm going to shoot a spell at you. You're not playing this as an instant. You're just playing it as an action.
For the most part. You can still do your Storm Striders BS and do that kind of stuff.
Oh, true.
But outside of that,
yeah. Cool. So next one is Auxilio. We mentioned it briefly. So this is the robot, which as a young hero has 18 life and as an adult hero has 36 life. This is the elemental wizard with Essence of Lightning. And his ability, or its ability, whatever this thing is, once per turn instant, discard an instant, draw a card. So all of the shock cards that have double faces, you can discard those to draw a card once per turn, which is interesting. It's doesn't pop off too much, I imagine, because you can only do it once.
You can do
I'm sure someone will break it
once per turn, so you can do it on your turn. You can do it on your opponent's turn. I saw a lot of people like the price of Brainstorm skyrocketed because of this guy. So people are already kind of like brewing Brainstorm, especially like foil Brainstorms. I know once this was spoiled, my buddy DM Ramada was like posting in our like little private chat. He's like, Jim, do you have 3 foil Brainstorms? So all the wizard players are pretty excited for it. Let me look it up real quick. So Brainstorm was one of the cards in one of the supplemental sets. I think it was in Dynasty, and it's kind of like this combo card. Let me look it up real quick. Yep, here it is. Brainstorm. So Brainstorm is a wizard instant. It's a 3-drop blue pitch card. It says, until end of turn, your hero gains, whenever you draw a card this action phase, deal 1 damage to any target. And so...
Okay.
Yeah, it just kind of synergizes with Brainstorm shenanigans. And there's a bunch of like Brainstorm combo things that I've seen before. And so the price of Brainstorm skyrocketed from like a 25-cent card to like a $6-7 foil. So, or maybe more, I don't know. That's hilarious. The last week one of the previous weeks I was like, I don't know how much Codex is, like $30, and it turns out it was like 70. And I sold my 2 extras. I was like, $70? Yeah, sure. I have 5 of them. I only need 3, so get out of here. So anyway, so yeah, I think Auxilio is cool.
It's going to be funny to see what Volzar does as well. So Volzar, the Lightning Rod, is a card that we've covered before. So I'm just going to skim over it here. And it says, if you control an aura permanent with sigil in its name, this costs 1 less. So we haven't actually seen the aura permanents that Auxilio cares about yet. So it's going to be funny to see what they do. These auras of lightning or whatever. Wait a minute, is embodiment of lightning an aura? No, it needs to have sigil in its name. I'm chatting garbage. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these sigil of lightning auras do and how Auxilio cares about them.
Yep. Cool. Do you want to move on to the next card?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. Next card is...
You're doing this one, aren't you? Null Shock.
Sure, yeah, I'll do Null Shock. So Null Shock is another one of the 1-drop meld cards. This one, notably, does not have any block value because both sides are an instant. So this is one side with Wizard instant, the other side lightning instant. The shock side still does 1 point of damage. This, well, like I said, costs 1, so it'll cost 2 to play if you want to do both of them. And then the null side says, if target instant card has cost less than the total arcane damage you've dealt to target or to opposing heroes this turn, negate it, which means it doesn't resolve. It's like a counter spell. So for 2, you can deal them 1 damage, and then you can counter something that costs counter an instant that costs 1 or less. If you do more arcane damage, then you can do more. So if you can like maybe pump up that shock by 1 with your weapon, then you can counter something that costs 2 or less or whatever. We already have a card that kind of yeah. And there already exists a counterspell in Flesh and Blood, Aetherize, that doesn't see any play. Maybe we'll see play if all these instants become very strong. So this is an interesting card. This one is a Majestic. This feels very, very meta dependent and situational for sure. This one is not one of the ones I do not think this is very good in limited. It might be if there's a crap load of instants in the set, but generally speaking, it's probably not going to do that much. Might just do 1 arcane damage to your opponent. That's what it might do, and not block. But it is yellow pitch at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting as well that this shock, obviously it's a yellow pitch shock with no defense value. If you want to play this half of shock, this one costs 1. But if you go back to the other shock, that's a red one that costs 0. Yep. So the shock instants can also have different values and on how you play them. So yeah, there's a lot of intricacies here. So it's going to be interesting to see like how that is sort of broken down, as to what's playable and what's not and all that sort of stuff. Next card is another split card. This is shock, and this shock costs 2. Yeah. So to deal 1 damage to someone with this half of the card, the instant side, costs 2. So that's quite a lot for 1 damage. But the wizard action on the other side is called Comet Storm. This also blocks for 3. And it says deal 5 arcane damage to any target, and it has meld. So obviously you'd have to pay 4 to deal 6 damage to any target. But the interesting thing is, as well with this, is you play both half of these cards. You can deal 5 damage to one thing and then 1 damage to another. So if there were allies out, you could just go ping, which is something that
you can UPF it too. So if you're in UPF, you can blast 2 different players. I think you can also boost the power separately. So you can like pump them like with other arcane damage effects. So you can do like 6 damage and then 2 damage if you're able to pump them both. So I mean that's kind of interesting. It's very expensive though. Like it's gonna cost you like 4 to do that, plus whatever else you need. So like maybe 6. So if you do like a full 2 blue pitch, and then like somehow able to pump up both half of these with like a 1-drop ability, like a Crucible of Aetherweave plus something else or whatever. You can do like 5, 6, 8. You can do like 8 damage for like 6 resources. That's still not super good to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. This is just a rare as well. Yeah. This one also seems like a pretty good one for limited, and you would probably just be going like, I pay 2 and I blast you for 5, kind of deal, you know.
Just interested in the target thing, because if allies care, if you care about allies, you've got an answer for it, at least in this class. Which is cool. So you can blast different things.
All right,
so that's that.
Ooh, yeah.
Speaking of arcane damage, what's the next thing?
Yes, next card. The next card's really interesting. So this card is not a card that is. It's in the booster set, but it's different. Okay, so this card is called Sanctuary of Aelia. This is a Rosetta macro card. That is the type. It is a Rosetta macro. So instead of it being an action or an instant, it is Rosetta macro. Has no cost, no block, nothing like that, because you start the game with this in the arena when playing a Rosetta limited format. So you just get this. If you're playing Rosetta limited, you just get this. And it says instant for 2 resources, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn by a source of your choice. Destroy this at the beginning of the end phase. So you can do that as many times as you have resources for, but at the end of the end phase, it is destroyed. It's very similar to something they did in Uprising, I think. They had that hat.
Lost Mitre.
Yeah, the Helios Mitre. Yeah, they had that hat that you can just get. What I like about this is that it doesn't take up a equipment slot, and it's also just kind of like their way of helping to balance the arcane damage problem that was around in Tales of Aria, because there was like no arcane barrier in Aria outside of legendaries, and so you just got arcane damage was just so good. It's like free damage. So I like this. It's an interesting fix without having to rework the whole system, and I really feel like arcane damage is kind of like just this weird thing that they have to like keep playing around with in terms of like how they deal with it from set to set, especially in regards to limited. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's cool. This is just a token, by the way. Art is pretty. It's got some meeps looking at a Aurora Borealis kind of thing with like some, houses that have like, an orange glow emanating inside, like tavern looking things. That's really pretty. Idyllic, but yeah, it's cool.
Carlos Cruchaga, of course it would be one of Bill's favorite artists.
Got the little meeps.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a cool thing. The next card is one that we've seen already. That's Felling of the Crown and Channel the Millennium Tree. We've seen quite a few of these ones now, the ones that are on February at least. But Felling of the Crown is pretty cool. It's just one of those, one of the cards that has the new mechanic Decompose on it. So I reckon we're probably going to see a bit more of this as well. So this is a three cost Majestic, attacks for 4, blocks for 3, Earth action attack. If there are 4 or more Earth cards in your banish zone, this gets +4, so it becomes a 3 for 8. And then when this attacks, you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. And if you do, each hero puts a card from their hand at the bottom of their deck. So forced interaction. We're going to see hopefully a bit more forced interaction, because it's clear that the metagame at large likes things interacting.
Note: this is an Earth card, so playable in Starvo.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yep, playable in Starvo.
+2 dominate, go again. Let's go.
Yeah, so 10 dominate, go again. Put a card from the bottom of your hand on the bottom of your deck. Seems good.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So it's obviously the next card we've seen already, but the interesting thing about the Decompose mechanic is that it kind of anti-synergizes with your Earth heroes because they want to keep cards in their graveyard. So the fact that you're banishing cards away from your ultimate hero power is a decent cost, a decent sort of downside, because this card is very powerful. So in order to use it to its best ability, you need to sort of go against what your hero is trying to do, but it's still quite a swingy card. So I guess those decision points are quite good, which is why they've made the Decompose mechanic. So you have to sort of pay against your overall strategy to make this work. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the sake of time, since we're already like an hour and a half in, let's skip the ones we've already gone over, because we still have a bunch of ones we haven't yet. So I think the next one, Channel the Millennium Tree, we've already talked about this one.
Yep.
And then we've also talked about Channel Lightning Valley. I don't think we've talked about Earth Form. It's a very simple card that has a...
Oh, wait, one sec. Channel the Lightning Valley with Shock. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
so the
that's
first
very
time
good.
you deal damage to an opposing hero, so all of your shocks become free. You just draw a card off of Shock.
Yeah, if you want to do them at instant speed, that actually makes it really interesting. So Channel Lightning Valley, before we get to the Earth forms, as mentioned it, Channel Lightning Valley is a 0-drop lightning instance aura. It's a yellow pitch card, has no block, and it says the first time you deal damage to an opposing hero each turn, draw a card. Then it has Channel Lightning, which is the same kind of channel effect that all the channel cards have. At the beginning of your end phase, put a flow counter on this and then destroy unless you put a lightning card from your pitch zone on the bottom of your deck for each flow counter on it. So you can, this is instant, so you can play it on your opponent's turn. So you can go instant speed, Channel Lightning Valley, instant speed, shock, and then just deal 1 damage, and then you draw a card. And then you'd have to play another lightning card on your turn to tend to keep this around. But it's pretty sweet. It does make the choice between whether you want to play those lightning cards in your turn or your opponent's turn more interesting. Like that burn up shock, where it was like it had the action side, but it also had the 0 cost 1 arcane damage side too. So like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. If you don't think you can get the burn up side, if you really need another card, you can always instant speed, shock them, draw a card. So yeah, Lightning Valley seems pretty good.
Well, that was quite cool. Yeah, with the new sort of information that we have about shock being an instant, and some sides have a 0 cost, it just means you can shock them, draw a card, and then if you want to, if you've got the resources to pay into something like Aurora's ability, you've played a lightning card this turn, which means you can activate your hero ability to get an embodiment for the next turn. Then you can swing your weapon and then go around again, and just it seems really cool interaction. So lots more to see, of course. But yeah, carry on. I just thought that was good.
Yeah.
Worth mentioning.
I'm gonna lump the next 2 cards together, and before we get to the generic. So we have 2 more cards that I'm gonna lump together. They're both essentially the same kind of thing. So we have Earth Form and we have Lightning Form, which has freaking gorgeous artwork. Holy hell, man. So Earth Form. Earth Form has like this big grumpy tree man with his arms crossed. It's a full rainbow cycle, so it's red, yellow, and blue. The red one is a 3-drop, 2 block, 7 attack, so 3 for 7, which is great. And then it's very simple. When it hits, create an embodiment of Earth. And then we have the yellow is a 3 for 6, and the blue is a 3 for 5. And then we have Lightning Form, which is kind of like a scaled differently version. So Lightning Form is a 1 for 5 on hit. Create an embodiment of lightning token. Yellow is a 1 for 4. Create an embodiment of lightning. Blue is a 1 for 3. So they're essentially the same kind of cards. They're just essentially a vanilla card. When it hits, create the token of choice. I really like the Earth Form a lot because it's a 3 for 7, which is very, very strong. And then you still get that embodiment of Earth, and it's fairly hard to block out the 7 attack. The Lightning Form I don't like quite as much. It's the 1 for 5, but the art is gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think it might be my favorite art in the set. People who know me, I really like silver-haired characters, like we mentioned before. I really, really love this art by Edward G. Very good. So yeah, these are. I want
to know who this Seraphina character is, because there's a quote on this one: "To wield lightning is to channel the raw energy of Yivor through your very veins." From Seraphina. Seraphina looks like a lightning wizard character, but a silver-haired lady. Why didn't we get her? Why did we get Auxilio? I don't understand.
Yeah. You're not the only one who's disappointed.
Outrageous missed opportunity.
Yeah, and there's a full art version of this card. I don't think it's on February, but there is a full. Or maybe if I go to card details, maybe they have the full art version on here. Oh, they do. Oh, but it's not on screen. I'll have to change the regions. Hold on, if I do the. No, it doesn't work.
Rainbow Extended Art. So does that come in the set then, does it? Or is that just a promo or something?
It's a promo. The Extended Art is a Rainbow Foil promo.
I see.
Oh, why can't I...
Yeah, oh, yes, from the Armory kit, isn't it, I think? The promos for those. I think that's what that's
Ed Ritchie has done a couple other arts in the set, in Flesh and Blood, like Fang Strike and stuff. In any case, the card looks absolutely gorgeous. And...
Indeed.
You know, here, let me go ahead. I'm just gonna for the visual people out there, I'm gonna go ahead and paste a duplicate, and then I'm gonna just get this so you can see, just so you can see. Hold on.
Worth checking out the video version and subscribing on the Living Legends podcast YouTube
channel. Yeah, exactly.
Moment alone.
Reset. Yeah. Oh, it's not working. Okay, whatever. That's fine.
If you're listening to the audio version of this right now, just while we're in limbo here, just go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's probably what you should do. Anyway.
Oh, there you go. I'll just do the manual on this one. Look how good this looks. Look at this. This looks so good. I think it's like one of the best looking Flesh and Blood cards. Like the art is just like super extended. It's just really clean looking. It looks incredible. It reminds me of a lot of Japanese trading card games that focus on like the art, make the art really big. It looks really good. Big fan of that. So yeah, that's good. I'll have to re-edit this down, but that's fine. That's fine. Cool. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the final couple cards. which are going to be some generic. So, would you like to take it away with the first one?
Yeah, sure. So this is so these were all spoiled during the keynote as well, but they were very blurry images, so we didn't get to see them properly. But this first one is a card called Hand Behind the Pen. So this is a generic, 2 cost, 6 attack, so 2 for 6, pretty good. Only blocks for 2 though on this generic one. But all of these have some interactive abilities. So this one says when this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up, so you get a bit of information, and then banish a non-attack action card from their arsenal. So you get to see what the card is that they're arsenaling, which can be good in some scenarios. But if it's a non-attack action card, it's just gone. You know, it's like a mini CNC almost, like something like sort of like Wreck Havoc used to be. Used to turn that face up, and if it's a D-react, destroy it. So it's those sorts of cards, which are cool because these come as a rare cycle, and it's a nice little budget alternative for CNCs. If you don't have them, you can, if you're a new player, start with cards like this. It's just a 2 for 6 that then can have that same effect. It's nice little budget options and stuff that you might want to select and keep yourself open with in limited, because these are pretty good rates on these cards, as we can see in the next one, which I'm sure you're going to read out in a minute.
Yeah, cards like this, I just want to mention, really make me feel like Command & Conquer kind of limited their design pretty early on. It's like when James mentioned in the interview that we had with him that he regrets Sink Below. And because he feels like it's too good, it limits their design. I feel like Command & Conquer is very similar, where it's just so good, it just blows up their arsenal no matter what it is, can't be defended, but the D-Reacts can't be played, where these are like so much worse. But they're more interesting because they have kind of like these different effects, where CNC is just like, well, I just do it. So the next card,
it's going to be before we just go on to these last ones here as well. Living Legends podcast episodes are always long, so we've come to expect that already at this point. But it will be interesting to see in the future, like what the Power 9 are of Flesh and Blood, and whether those cards are just banned because they're too good, like Command and Conquer, like the E strikes and all that sort of stuff. Are they just too good that they're not played anymore? Similar to how the Power 9 just are not allowed to be played in the game, especially because Flesh and Blood is an eternal format. The generics are just constantly playable. Art of War's always playable, ridiculously good, clearly at the moment. So that'll happen.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It'd be interesting if they did like a big purge and just banned a bunch of stuff like that. I don't know. But this next card, Smash Up, very similar to the last card. Different in a couple ways. So this is a 1 for 5, 2 blocks. So instead of a 2 for 6, it's a 1 for 5. Really cool artwork of like this barbarian riding like this battle elk is the only way I can describe it. He's riding like this mystical elk kind of thing and smashing some dude in armor. Well, a bunch of dudes. There's a bunch of guys in the background being like thrown into the sky. I don't know. Yeah. This dude's going ham. But also, when this hits a hero, same kind of effect. Turn a card in their arsenal face up, but you banish an attack action card instead. Similar kind of deal. I think once again, I think it's 2 for 6, 1 for 5. They're actually pretty close. The 7's where you get those nasty breakpoints, but I don't know. It's a rare. Banishing an attack action. Also really interesting for this set in particular because it's a wizard Runeblade set, so it's probably not as good as if this was in heavy hitters, for example. I think this would be like very, very good, like in limited. But in this set, I don't know. Maybe it's just okay. But
another thing about these as well is, especially in the context of limited, is that I imagine, the meld cards will count as either one. So
I think
if you've got instant on one side and then non-attack on the other side, these might actually hit quite often in limited because there's a lot of split cards. So if you've got a split card in your arsenal, which are normally going to be quite good arsenal targets anyway, because you can play them out instant speed, they might not block or whatever. Some of these cards might actually hit a lot of the time and banish those cards because of the fact that they have dual purpose. So going into the next one, this one says Tongue-Tied. This has got sick artwork on it as well, like this weird sort of demon wood thing being having its tongue tied quite literally by this banner. This is a 3 for 7, blocks for 2, generic again. When this hits, turn a card in their arsenal face up, then banish an instant from their arsenal. So we know there's going to be a lot of instants in this set on the dual cards like Shock and Life. So this one could actually be pretty good with the breakpoint of 7 also.
I very, very much like this one. This is my favorite one of the cycle. Hitting an instant is interesting because if it's a 0 cost, if they can play the instant, they can always just play it in response. You know, they can just...
Yeah, true.
But if they can't play it, if they don't have the resources for it, then, you know, then it's like stuck. But a 3 for 7, pardon me, in Limited, it's just insane. In Mistvale Draft and Sealed, I always play the 3 for 7s, the Blanches and the Battlefront Bastion. In fact, one of my Zen decks that I went I think I went 3-1 in one of the side events in Japan. I literally had like 5 of these 3 for 7s. I think I had like 2 Blanches and 3 Battlefront Bastions, and I was just like, and then a bunch of the 0 for 4s. So I'm just like, they're just good. 3 for 7. So like, even without the effect, I think this is a great card in Limited. With the effect, I think this is a very, very good card in Limited. This one in like Draft is one that I would likely pick very highly because it keeps you open, and it's a 3 for 7 that probably also punishes a lot of greedy arsenals. So it's good. I think this card's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you'll be surprised as to how many times you actually get that off because of the fact there's dual cards in the set. So you have to be careful as well. Like if you know these cards are floating around, you know, if you're hiding something in your arsenal, which might actually synergize better on a bigger turn or something, you know that you could get smashed up or tongue tied or hand behind the penned because you know you're keeping that dual card in your arsenal. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And they're just big generic attacks, like you said, which have good rates on them. So if they blocked for 3, they would be ridiculous, but it's a good thing that they don't, I think.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
I'm now taking a look at the only card we didn't talk about, which was Channel of the Millennium Tree, and to see if it has any extra things to talk about. I don't really think so. This is one that just kind of pumps up arcane damage, right? It says at the beginning, when this enters your arena, at the beginning of your action phase, you amp 3. So this just kind of like pumps up their first arcane damage spell by like 4, or arcane damage dealing thing by 4. This one's an Earth Action Aura. Yeah.
So it's pretty good in the context of now we know what Verdance does. If you've got Channel Millennium Tree out and you gain 1 life, you're dealing 4 damage on her effect, which is pretty good. And then so you can turn a Sigil of Solace into 7 value. If you've got this out, you can gain 3 life and deal 4 damage, which for 0 is pretty good. Plus whatever you do after that, without the amp is just you love in life. If you've got 8 cards in your banish zone, you got Channel Millennium Tree out, that's for sure.
Yeah,
in your earth cards in your graveyard, I should say. No, in your banish zone.
Yes.
Your banished zone for Verdance, is that the same with Florian then?
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when I was talking about the felling of the crown, it's not anti-synergistic whatsoever. You do want to banish cards. Yeah, you want to banish 2 earth cards to do the thing.
Oh,
so
yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I thought it was graveyard, but it's not. It's banishing from your it's banished zone that cares about that. So yeah, maybe when going back on what we said earlier, maybe there's cards like if you want to self mill or put cards into your banish zone, that's where the decompose is going to come in. So that's probably what this is getting at. So yeah, before you correct me in the comments, if you listen this far, I do correct myself. So have that.
Yeah. If you're listening in like almost 2 hours in, we did it. We got there.
Yeah. I reckon the people that subscribe to Living Legends podcast on YouTube, they're the ones that listen to this to the very end, for sure. 100%. That could be you. All you have to do is go over to YouTube and click subscribe. That's it, really.
It is. Like I said, help us speed run to 1,000 subscribers. You can only be one of the first 1,000 subscribers once. So now is your opportunity. You have the chance.
Yeah.
Help us. I know we can. I think we can get much higher than that. So yeah, let's do it and help support the Living Legends. Hey, maybe LSS will give the Living Legends podcast its own spoiler card. Each of us has gotten our spoiler cards respectively. Spike Feeders, Go Again Gaming, Red Zone Rogue. We've each gotten our spoiler cards respectively, but maybe someday they'll give the Living Legends its own card, and then we can talk about it in an episode. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So go subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Living Legends podcast Round the Table product that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Though, okay. As we kind of wind things down, I do want to mention something. So we looked at. I just realized this. We looked at the product schedule for the next year or so, right? One thing that was not on that was Round the Table, and in our interview with James White, he said a Round the Table product is in the works. And it was like they were like working on it. So very interesting. I don't know if that means they are not going to release it and for over a year, or if it's one of those things that they want to keep very hush hush and make it a big surprise. I think either options are possible, but yeah.
Yeah. What we should say on that as well, though, is that the product roadmap for their sort of financial year is from August to July.
That's true.
So we may see the Round the Table at the latter end of next year, potentially, because we still got sort of, August, September, October, November, December that's not appeared on this roadmap, but that's part of their next year.
I actually think I think Round the Table could be a really good holiday product, to be honest, like a holiday season product. I think multiplayer stuff like that's really good around that time of year, because it's a lot of the time of the year where people are getting together, and it's a good thing that you can like bust out if you have like family or friends over. So yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for the main topic and all the Flesh and Blood stuff for this episode. We do have our Arsenal step, dear viewers, so definitely stick around and listen to whatever we got up our arsenals this week. And I have a quick one. So I have a bunch of card game stuff. I'm not going to talk about the card game stuff this time. I'm going to talk about something just really, really quickly. It's something I do every single year, and it felt like now's the time of year that I'm going to do it again. So I'm a big fan. It has to do with video games. This is very nerdy stuff. So I'm a big fan of the Uncharted series. It's not something I talk about a lot, but I actually really, really love Uncharted. I play through the whole series every year. And I just kind of like get into this mood where I'm like, I want to go on like this adventure, right? And, they're always like, exploring lost. All of them are about like, there's always like some sort of lost city, some sort of mystical artifact, some sort of legendary explorer that they're following, whether it be Francis Drake or Marco Polo or whatever, whether the city is Shambhala or El Dorado or whatever. And I love this kind of thing. I love these kind of like adventures, Indiana Jones-esque style stuff. So I'm playing through Uncharted again this year, right now, and it's really fun. Except for Uncharted 1. Uncharted 1 is the worst by far, and sometimes I skip it. This time I didn't skip it. I still play through Uncharted 1, but going from Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2 is like day and night. 2 is like so much better.
Night day, yeah.
And then like 3 is pretty good. 4 is the best, and then I also play the one with Chloe. I play Lost Legacy, which I think is really good too. So that's what I'm doing right now in my kind of spare time outside of like content and TCGs. I'm just kind of like firing up some Uncharted, currently in Uncharted 2. It's really good. So yeah, that's my Arsenal step. You got anything else?
Awesome stuff. I'm just checking that you can still hear me, because it skipped a little bit there.
No, you're good.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, I was just checking because the video went a little bit blurry, and we had some internet issues last week. But yes, everything is all good. Arsenal step. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine last weekend.
Robin and I are
on Thursday.
We're gonna go see it. We haven't seen it yet. I heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely a fan service film. So if you've seen a lot of the other sort of comic book movies, and you're up to date with a lot of the stuff, new and old, you'll be very, very happy with some of the stuff that's in it. But yeah, it was it's pretty good, really, really funny, and just exactly what you expect from a Deadpool film, but just with Hugh Jackman in it as well, which is good.
We are almost up to date. I think I've seen all of the Marvel movies, most of the shows. but there's a couple movies that I haven't seen because I heard they were bad and I just don't want to spend the time. So I didn't see Madam Web. Robin saw it. She thought it was bad. And then I've never saw the Black Widow movie, and I never saw... Oh, there might have been another new one that came out that I didn't watch. But I've watched most of... like all of the others. I watched all the others.
Yeah, so I don't want to reveal too much, but yeah, if you've been following stuff for a while, you'll definitely be surprised as to what's in it. But yeah, so yeah, watch that. Anything else? Not really, to be honest. Playing through Final Fantasy X again at the moment, but apart from that, not really doing much else. So yeah, that's it really.
Nice. Well, that is that, and of course, Bill is out bouldering up a storm, bringing home the gold medal to the Living Legends podcast. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll have to question him next week. And until then, thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for listening, for going to the Living Legends YouTube channel and subscribing. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I've been Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue. You can find me everywhere at Red Zone Rogue. And of course, we have Az. Where can the lovely people find you, man?
Yeah, so I'm Go Again Gaming on YouTube, and yeah, on Go Again Gaming AZ on the socials, Twitter mainly. But yeah, if you're watching this on Living Legends podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well, and go and check out everybody else's stuff and what everyone else is up to as well here. But yeah, we'll welcome Bill back next week and see if he won the thing that he was doing. We'll see.
Right. Yep. You missed a good old fashioned 2-hour episode. So thank you again for watching. If you're listening to this audio, you've been watching for 2 hours, presumably. Bless you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next week. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. And also, if we're still recording, leave a comment on the video as well, because we'll read them out. We'll read them out. We'll see how long we do it for. I want to try and read out, as much as possible, or at least shout some names out for, our beginning of our migration over to a separate YouTube channel. But yeah, continue to comment, and we'll continue to shout you out for the foreseeable future until we decide not to. That's it, really.
Yeah, we'll probably we thought about introducing kind of like a mailbag thing, so we'll revisit that going forward. So
yeah.
just do it. Do it. Okay, bye.
Do it now.
Do it now.
Do it now. Get to the YouTube channel.
Get to the YouTube chat. I can't do it. I can't do YouTube. YouTube. I can't do it. It's a weird like inflection. I can just go.
Get to the YouTube. Yeah.
Get to the chopper.
Brilliant.
All right.
The YouTube.
All right, we're done. We'll leave that in too.
Keep that all in.
Yeah, man.